Matt is back in the house.
That's right.
What's cracking?
I know you didn't miss me, but I'm back anyway. Can't kick me out.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you've got to travel around and help other gyms be successful, then you've got to do it.
That's right, man. It's a good trip.
So I'm glad to
went to
send you
Notre
out.
Dame.
I know. We didn't even go to the campus.
Well, I had to get back for a meeting and didn't have time.
I know.
That's how dedicated employee I am.
Well, if you ever talk to, and now you know this, if you ever talk to someone that doesn't travel and you're like, oh, I went to San Francisco for a conference, and they're like, oh, did you go see Alcatraz? Did you go here? Did you go up to the wine country? I'm like, I could have been in Iowa because I went from the airport to the hotel, which was attached to the conference center. I literally never went outside for 2 days, right? So that's typically what it's like. And then when you travel a bunch, you know, if you're not thinking vacation everywhere, you go and you come back. So I get it.
I legit could have walked from the airport to the gym.
Oh, was
That's
that
how
close?
it was. Yeah. I was like, all right, guys, I'm getting an Uber. And they're like, well, the airport's just right there. They're like, we'll drop you off.
You can see it.
People take people to the airport here.
How far is that?
It's not like what you do in Atlanta. If you're taking somebody to the airport in Atlanta, you are a very nice person.
I know. I've done it once for my buddy Jared, who lives in Sydney, Australia, and he was leaving at the crack of dawn. But I'll never do it again, Jared. So if you ever come back to town, you're going to have to Uber your ass to the airport.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. It's a terrible trip in Atlanta. I'll never do it again. So you're welcome, but never again. Well, listen, let's get down to business. So today we're going to talk about changing your business model. Should you, and why you should change your business model? And of course, like a lot of other podcasts we've done in the last probably 6 months, a lot of this was inspired by a chapter from Road Less Stupid, which can't recommend it enough. You guys, if you haven't read it, pick it up. But this was something that rang true with me and you because we have changed our business model, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the chapter, he describes like sometimes when you're trying to fix a problem, like if profits are low, sales are weak, leads are down, instead of looking at your business model, you have all these sunk costs and these mental barriers, and you want to keep doing what you're doing. So quite often, and we've been guilty of this in the past, is you just double down on your current efforts. So you do more marketing, more sales, right? More complexity, because you feel like that's okay. Well, if this isn't working, I just need to do more of it. Sometimes that's the answer, but for the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to stress test that by saying, maybe it's your actual business model. So, one thing that's funny about us is when we were moving to personal training. So imagine a model where we had 8,000 square feet and we did a do it on your own membership, which we used the app for virtual. We had a class-based team training under the same roof. We had small group personal training, which was our specialty. And then we had a little bit of one-on-one training. So really like 4 levels of service going on in the same building. And when you look at now in hindsight, look at the level of complexity to run those multiple layers at the same time through manpower, which is an expense, right?
Right.
And all the other, people just underestimate. They're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I can offer all these things in my market and I'll be more profitable and I'll make more top line revenue. But when you look at the schedule inefficiencies, the amount of cost it took to run all these specialty programs, it wasn't worth it. It was like very time consuming. Which means it was very expensive from a labor standpoint. And all we were doing to fix it at times was just continue to do more of what we're doing and not really examine it. And as we started to say, okay, well, we're going to move to franchising. What's the one thing that we do that we've learned worldwide is our special sauce? Where's there a gap in the market? It's here. Then we start drilling down on that. It was like, it was funny that we would be in these meetings and we would be trying to solve current problems, knowing where we're headed. And then we would look at each other and be like, stronger one, because it would solve everything. Right. And it was the business model change that fixed everything, not doubling down on the same thing. So the purpose of today is to say, well, we'll give you a couple of lenses to put on to look at your business. Right. Maybe your problems aren't doubling down on what you're already doing. Maybe the problem is your actual business model. And would you be willing to blow it up and build something different for the sake of more profitability, more simplicity, more scalability, that type of thing?
Yeah, this is the businesses that have been around for a while. I mean, we've been here for 30 years, been through many changes. I remember we've had so many conversations like, if I opened up the gym today around the corner, what would we do, And
it was always back to what we've actually done, but it's still, the human nature is I've got sunk cost. We've got clients in these other verticals that have been here forever. It's like, they're going to be mad. What are they going to say? And it's like, okay, at the end of the day, we're trying to solve a problem for our market, a gap in the market, and we need to have the most efficient, effective machine built around that. And that is not what we were doing. We were just hung up on the again, the
We'll
idiosyncrasies.
We'll do this.
We'll add this. We'll do that. And it's like everyone was labor and complexity. And it was like, why are we not looking at the most obvious change we could make to have a more profitable business, which is just, let's just pare it down to the thing that is the most successful, the stickiest. Clients pay the most. They're happier and get better results.
But
Our profit margins are better.
You grew it. You don't want to throw it out.
Well, exactly, right? We talked about this in a previous podcast. Yeah. It's like you're somewhat married. Your business is your baby. You're the mother of your business, and so your baby is so cute, But like honestly, it might not be that cute. So you might want to think about retooling the whole thing. So he went over 5 different points. We'll kind of just use those same ones, and then talk to him through our lens. So first one is resources. So when you're really looking at your current business model, like what are the resources needed to drive your business model? And if you just double down on marketing and sales, is it really going to fix your problem? And when I mean resources, it's like labor, right? Mm-hmm. Time invested.
Yep.
And labor is time and money. But time, literal time, like how much time is it going to take to continue to do what we're doing and create more activity inefficiently, right?
Right.
And then money. So how much more money is it going to take? So if you're sitting on a model where you need 600 members because you're in a boot camp model and you're sitting at 300, cost of acquisition, new customer acquisition is a challenge for all fitness businesses at times. If that's the case, are you really going to double down on all of your efforts? And is that going to fix your business model? Or is it that you're charging too little, right? And you're servicing people in the wrong way.
Right.
So resources first. 2 would be time. Again, how long is it going to take to get, again, if I'm sitting on a 300 member model, I come out of COVID and I'm like, all right, we're down to 300 members. And we've talked to gym owners that are like this, that own boot camps or whatever. I need to get back to 650 to be at the profit margins that I need to. It's like, okay, so you need to more than double. How long is that going to take?
Right.
And if we've talked about good studios doing a net 15 per month plus. So if you, in those models, churn out a little higher. So let's say you sold 30, right? But you churned out 15. You're a net 15.
Yep.
That would be a good pace. So how long is it going to take you to get another 3.5, 350
it's
members?
going to take 3 years.
Well, exactly. So it's like, okay, how much time has to be invested, right? Next would be volume. How much volume of revenue do you really need to make money? And I would say even profit on the back end. So what we found in looking at, what we're calling Stronger One, which is our franchise model, is that if we just pared it down to that, we had higher paying customers at a much higher margin, right? So it means that we didn't have to do as much volume. And we've talked about this. I talk about it with candidates. It's a lot of times in the fitness business, you're in the marketing business and you just so happen to service that revenue by doing fitness. And we feel that way, right?
Right.
Well, once you get into a model where it's a build and hold, you actually get to be in the fitness business. So you're in the business of taking care of clients,
right?
Not always on this hamster wheel of churn,
right?
Looking for new client acquisition, right?
So was it not a marketing business that does fitness?
And it's so funny. Hustle. I was talking to a candidate, since I've been doing sales, and I said, listen, a lot of fitness businesses are marketing businesses that just so happen to do fitness, but we are a fitness business. So we ramp well and then we hold, and then we can actually do what the business promises, which is fitness, right? And that's kind of fun. It's it's a fun, gratifying business to be in, to change lives. If I just want to be in the marketing business, I might want to go into something more lucrative, other than fitness. And the candidate I was talking to starts laughing. He's like, that's so funny because I talked to, we won't name them, but I talked to so-and-so, a different fitness franchise, and they literally said, we're more of a marketing company that does fitness. I'm like, well, did that sound exciting to you? Like, do you want to open a marketing agency, or do you want to be in the fitness business? Right. And there is a difference, right? It sounds the same, but there's a different sort of lens on it, right? Different emphasis.
One thing, like, with the resources and time, I mean, everybody has, and even if your business is doing fairly well, everybody has the ego, want to grow. I'm going to have more members and more things. But what you have to think about is all the cost that goes with that. So it's like we talk about here, Stronger One. It's very simple, right? You got your manager, runs a place. He also trains, also servicing revenue. You start bringing in a bunch of members, and then guess what? Maybe then you have to have a manager who's not servicing revenue. Then you got a front desk.
Well, we've even seen it like and this is know thy numbers, right? Where if you're in a model where you have a lower labor model and the actual salesperson can also service revenue, like the Stronger One model, right? You're very efficient, and it makes your overall labor costs very low as a percentage of your revenue. Just moving from, say, that one into a larger model, because there is, even at a low churn rate, there is a certain amount of churn that now has to be mitigated by more sales.
Right.
You now have to add an entirely new position that is not servicing revenue. It's literally just a retention and or sales position only. And so when we put those numbers into a detailed pro forma for us, we are almost at the same amount of profit, right? If both are healthy. That's saying, can you get to that higher volume? And if you do, you're not making any more money than you were in a much simpler model that had a much quicker ramp time. Right. So those are the things that I think people don't think about. They just think top line revenue. They don't think about complexity. And it's like, things like, I want to add a shake bar. I'm like, well, have you ever run the real metrics on a shake bar, right? Because if you don't have high enough volume of visits, if you're a small personal training place and you're going to put a shake bar in there, terrible idea. Who's going to make the shakes? So now you're going to pay somebody to be at the desk to do not much else except make a few shakes. Terrible idea, right? It's cutting into your margins, right? And the volume of shakes, even though your margins might be 100%, maybe it cost you $3 and you're selling your shakes for $6 or $7, you're not going to sell enough of them in a smaller volume facility. So does a shake bar work in a big 10,000 member gym? Damn right. Does it work in a 200 member gym? It does not financially, right? And I know there's guys out there that have them. They're like, oh, it's great. Okay, well, we've run the numbers. It didn't make sense to me. So you must be working some gymnastics with your financials.
$20 a shake.
Right. Yeah. It's $40 to get a shake here because I have to go make it. So it just doesn't make sense, right? So those are the things I think in our industry a lot of people don't think about. So I would say keep it simple, and everything that you add, complexity, what are the resources? Like you said, what's the labor resources and everything, the allocation, right? How much time is it going to take for me to recoup my investment here or to, get from zero to break even, whatever, if it's a new business, whatever those things are. So total resources, total time, volume, like how much volume, how many customers do you need? How much revenue are you going to need, right? Next one is like adequate profit. Like fourth would be profitability. So what's your profit margin? We just spoke to a smaller model like ours, less overall revenue, much more profit margin. But that also means less overall activity. And when I say activity, it means complexity. And complexity is expensive and it's messy. So if it can be simple and clean and very profitable, that's the way you want to do it, right? Yeah. And so that's what I mean by revenues. Is not so much top line.
This is maybe a positive from COVID. I think you've talked to many people who had their businesses and everything was peachy before COVID, and they had to get back in their businesses, and everybody's numbers may be down just a little bit, but they're so much more efficient, and their volume number or the revenue numbers are just better.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, it's funny because we've been on this small group training bandwagon. It's, we've been mainly teaching that to people through licensing, right? Claiming it's the best line item vertical of revenue that we have and why it's so efficient and so great. It just doesn't work when you're trying to do 5 other things in the same room or in the same facility with it, right? It's too complex. But there's several gym owners, some we know really well, good friends, that have pivoted their model, gotten rid of what we call team, which is classes. And because they're studio based, they're not a big gym. They've again, eliminated classes and just gone to small group training, and they love it, right? So it's almost like they're running our franchise model, kinda, right? Per our suggestion, and they're like, oh, it's amazing. It's so simple. It's so profitable. It's so clean. Coaching, scheduling code, all the problem things that went away. Again, it wasn't just do more of the complex stuff. It was like a wholesale change of your business model. To your point, COVID was the catalyst to actually do it because it's not easy. Right. But there's times when that's the solution, right? And that's the whole point of this podcast is like, listen, maybe it's not all these other things. Maybe literally your business model just sucks. And I don't care what you've got invested in, how many cool things, like you want to teach karate in the evenings to kids in your free team training space, go for it. But you know what? Best of luck to you. Right. Is that really going to be worth it?
All these things and not good at any of them.
Right. Yeah. And none of them are that profitable, right? You make a little here, a little there. And it's like, you're just adding layers of complexity without a whole lot of profit. So, and then lastly is a superior return. And I think this really speaks to franchising is like, if you go back to number one, like how much resources is it going to take to run this business model? If you were opening, say, brand new, what is your time, a return on investment? And I think that would be the same thing we talked about, a shake bar. You're going to put a shake bar in, run plumbing, do all those things. There's an upfront investment, right? There's probably going to be labor around that and your time before you get it set up and running. You got to order some inventory, right? It's got cost of goods sold. So when do you get a return on that investment? Like is it the 1,000th shake? Is it the 300? I mean, you should have answers to those numbers. And I think if you're opening a brand new business model, how quickly can you get return on investment? And I know in the franchise world, this is kind of a duh, but I think in the regular gym world, these discussions don't happen maybe as much as they should.
It sounds like a lot of money without thinking about the other
crushing
costs.
it. Right. When I've talked to a lot of gym owners, it's like, even buddies of mine in the industry that are on the consulting side, and I think they say the average margins are like 12% in the gym industry. I'm like, that's terrible. I mean, listen, it's good if you can make a living and maybe you're paying yourself a salary and you're still making 12%. Noble, but I would not want to make an investment that had margins that low,
right?
Unless it was, I was doing like $80 million a year or something in total
solid
revenue. Yeah, talking about some activity, right? But it's different. We're not talking about like our type of businesses are not going to get that kind of volume,
right?
Hell, even Planet Fitness, which does a pretty high volume, right? Because they're the low cost champion or the pioneer of that. They're still at like nearly 50% margins in their gyms, right? So it's like, that's really important to have. Yeah. The takeaway today is that profit margins are kind of important. So you didn't know that. Now you know. So again, is it not enough customers? Maybe you don't have enough customers. Maybe, right? Maybe you don't charge enough. Maybe you're sitting on the wrong business model. And so those are just the lenses that we would use. And I could tell you through experience, it was been a breath of fresh air, much more profitable, clean, simple business to move to this model. But it still even took us psychologically a while to get there.
Sure. Yeah. 30 years of stuff to throw out.
Yep. So here's the deal. If your business is struggling or you're looking to grow, I would like you guys to at least look at your overall business model and try to disassociate yourself from the baggage and your sunk cost of what you've built up to now. Be honest with yourself. If it's too complex, you want something more profitable with less drama at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, we didn't even really, one of the things we looked at when we started this model was like, honestly, it was like, what is the best thing for the clients, and kind of backtrack that way. Then we finally like kept them the longest, easier to serve and all those things. So, just saying.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of important. I mean, that's a good point. Like, okay, what do our most successful clients do? Okay, they do small group training because it's more affordable than one-on-one. Check. But it provides all the same accountability tools and specificity of one-on-one. Check. It provides the group aspect and the positives of being in a group setting and the accountability that comes with that and the motivation, right? So it kind of ticks all those boxes. Mm-hmm. And when we looked at it, it's like, okay, you open a business to solve a problem. That's it. And so we saw an open gap in the market where you've had population from 45 to 65 that was underserved or underrepresented by most fitness brands that were class-based. We saw that one-on-one could do it, but it just was so expensive and not scalable even from a labor model. I didn't like the business model. I didn't think we could put it in enough areas because it's too expensive. So this was the sweet spot, right? Mm-hmm. And we knew intuitively that's the advantage of working with somebody that's been in the industry for 30 years. Those clients paid. They paid more. They stayed longer, and they got the results that they wanted. And so, that's kind of where you should start, to your point. Like, you want to simplify everything. Like, what's the best thing for your customers? And then build a business model around that and quit adding complexity just to sound cool or to impress your colleagues in the industry. Like, keep it simple, man. So keep it profitable, keep the drama down, go make some money.
Cool. Rock on.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Thank you.